And here we go. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Oh, we've got Gail, we've got Mark, we've got Brenda, we've got Tommy, we've got Michael. We got folks.
Pat Romano.
Pat Romano. Brenda. All of our favorite people. So yes, as you can see on the screen, today is our 200th guest. And I had a little different plan for our 200th guest, but she would have killed me. So I am going to be our 200th guest, which means, very simply, that someone else is going to ask me stuff.
That's right, and it's not going to be me.
That's right. Well, you've asked me enough stuff, and most of what I've told you is true. How about Angus's joke last night, huh?
I don't really remember.
About the robot? The truth-telling robot?
Oh, right. Yes, that was a good one.
Yeah, it was good. Okay, so in preparation for our 200th guest, me, I'm going to play the video for the 200th guest, me.
It's the Steve show.
Yeah, starring nobody, co-starring Steve. No, my buddy Fader is the man, and Fader is the man, by the way. He called me up the other day and he said, "Hey, has anybody ever interviewed you?" And I said, "Not really. I mean, Angus and I tried it once early on, but no." And so I saw Lori's eyes light up, right? Because she's just not into the spotlight. Although you should see all the spotlights over there. They're all over.
Yes.
No, she does. I tried to get her to sing once in the studio. I'd rather try to. No, just doesn't work. It's not her thing.
It is not.
Yeah, there's only two singers in the family, and she's not one of them. So I will jump right into my video of me. Go figure. Well, where'd you come up with that idea, Steve? I thought, why not? And this video actually has FYI, I don't know if anyone is having a problem. Oh, it looks like TVs are having a problem logging on to Facebook.
No.
Oh, well. Anybody else having a problem? We got a pretty full room.
Yeah, we got a pretty full room.
Let me just tell him. No, we got a pretty full room. See how that goes? So that's all right. He's seen this video anyway. I think he might have even been here when this video was filmed.
Where was it filmed?
It was filmed. No, I guess he wasn't there. It was filmed in Detroit.
He would not have been.
No, he wasn't. It was filmed in Detroit. We were headlining the Monsters of Rock tour show with Firehouse, Quiet Riot, and I can never remember who the other band was. We were the headliner. And it was a great show. I remember it well. And this is what we did. So here it comes. This is me, my guest, us, me.
You.
My favorite part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, hey, thank you. Oh, it's nice to be on your show.
Hey, am I on here now?
Yeah, you've been on there.
You've been on there.
You've been on there.
Oh, I've been on there. Oh, good. I'm glad I didn't pick. I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm glad I didn't pick my nose or anything like that.
No, you didn't. Hey, well, listen. Would you have? Why? Would you have picked a different one, or you like that nose?
No, hey, listen, hey. Um, that was a pretty amazing drum solo, my friend, and I don't think I've ever seen you do the monkey thing. That was cute.
Oh man, I've been doing that's. I've been doing. Thank you. I've been doing the monkey thing.
Since the 70s.
Yeah, since the '70s.
Did you do that at Rat? Did you do that with Rat Race?
Yeah, in fact, I did
Oh.
it at the show, at the reunion show. I did it both nights. I think
Yeah.
I
You know
did.
what? I was so busy mixing you that I probably didn't, you know, pick up on that because I was too busy taking care of your vocals and drums up there. You know what I mean? I don't know. I was up in the boondocks.
No, that's okay. Listen, I was glad you were there because it was a challenge that particular evening.
It was, but you sounded great. Well, first of all, I want to just say welcome to the show, everybody. And tonight's show is sponsored by Miralax and Taco Bell. Either way, one of them will get things flowing again.
Nice. I like that.
Yes. That's all right. That's the only joke I'm going to crack tonight. So all right. Look, you've been before I do your interview. I just want to say that we thank you for what you do here every night, Monday through Friday. You're keeping rock and roll alive. You're keeping music alive. You have such amazing, interesting guests on your show. Obviously, some are super celebrity. Some are not as super celebrity, but they're the behind the scenes guys that really make a lot of things happen that you never even would realize. And it's a great show. It's so interesting. And in fact, I was at the Drum Center, the Long Island Drum Center, the other day, and I said hello to Dennis for you, and the first thing Dennis said to me was, "Man, Steve's doing a great podcast. He's doing a great show." So people know what you're doing, man. It's not going appreciated. So I just want you to know that.
I appreciate that. I mean, I've always loved what I do, and I feel very lucky to be able to do it, and it's fun. I love it. So it's a two-way street. I believe me, I get as much back as anybody gets out of it. So I'm glad people are enjoying it. It's great, and it keeps me connected to the community on a daily basis. So and I've met so many great people and had great people, present company, you included on the show. It's amazing. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. Thank you.
One suggestion I have for you moving forward, which I would love to see you do, is I would love to see you have a YouTube channel with archives of every show on YouTube, so people could always go back and say, yeah, I want to see that again, or this or that. It would take some work, but I think it would help build your brand up nice too.
How about it's interesting because I actually have that. I have a show I have a YouTube channel with shows archived on it. I didn't know how it was going to go over, and now I'm looking at being able to broadcast both to Facebook and YouTube at the same time with something called Restream. So you would know about that. And so yeah, believe me, I'm with you. And I don't know that I could get it would take some time to get all 200 shows on there, but there's a good smattering.
Yeah. Listen, you know what? During the day when you're catching frogs in the pool, you put the laptop on the side and you upload.
You upload, yeah, it's the truth. Catching frogs I got both of those frogs, pal.
Yeah. You save them.
Little tiny frogs. It's like, and I can see them, and they're clinging onto the side of the tile on the pool. And it's like, guys. And then, of course, I go over with a stick to try to save them, and they swim away. And it's like, I'm not jumping in the pool. It's but frogs will be frogs.
And you save them, so that's really cool. All right, so listen. Let's do this. I'm gonna do a full blown crazy interview with you today, but I want to start at the beginning. Let's start with little Steve Luongo when you were growing. Where did you grow up?
In White Plains, New York, in a garden apartment complex on Bryant Avenue called Bryant Crescent.
And that's where you went to school and all that stuff, growing up there?
Well, yeah, I went to school. I was a White Plains kid for pretty much my whole life. I went to Mamaroneck Avenue School was my elementary school. Eastview Junior High School was my junior high. And then White Plains High School was my high school until I got thrown out. And then, I went to the bad kids school.
Okay.
Well, there you go. All in White Plains.
So music. Were your parents musicians? I mean, how did the music come into your life?
Well, the music, it's interesting that you say that, ask that. My dad, I didn't find out, my parents were divorced when I was 2, so I didn't get a lot of dad time, but it turns out that he played trumpet. And my mother, I always knew, played classical and popular music on piano. She was so there was always a piano in the house. And there was lots of music in the house. My mother had tons of records, and she had all kinds of stuff. I mean, just Benny Goodman and Mitch Miller. Come on, help me out here. Glenn Miller, my God.
Glenn Miller, yep.
And West Side Story, and I saw
Artie Shaw. I'm sure.
Artie Shaw, yep, and all kinds of stuff. And then my brother was 8 years older than me, so he was sort of from the Elvis generation. So there was some Brazil 66 and Johnny Mathis and that kind of stuff. And and how it started for me, the path started for me is we had an assembly at my elementary school. And it's funny because I'm still friends with the girl who reminded me of this. Her name's Janice Patla. She lives down in Naples, so she's kind of a neighbor. But still a great friend. And I remember her telling me that when the high school band from the high school was going to come and do an assembly at our at our school. And my mother was winding me up about it. Oh, it's Mr. Renino and the band, the high school band is the best, and they're the best, and it's this and that. And so I was all excited. And when I went there, I'm sitting in the front row of the balcony next to Janice, and the band started to play, and I had never heard this. I had never heard ambience before. You know, I mean, I obviously heard music. I watched television. I listened to records, but I never heard the room. And being all the way in the back when the guy started playing the snare drum, because it wasn't a trap set, it was, you know, bass drum and cymbals and the guy playing the snare. When he started playing the snare and it echoed through the room, I said to Janice, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
So
and
you knew,
yeah.
I was going to say, you knew, as soon as you saw that, you knew you wanted to play drums.
Yeah, as soon as I heard it, I knew I wanted to play drums. And she said she always remembers from that point on, I had drumsticks in my back pocket. And but in my elementary school, you weren't allowed to take lessons until 4th grade. So I had to wait like 4 years, 5 years until I could take lessons. But my mom got me some drums and I was playing. So I had been playing for years. And when I finally got to take lessons, it was like, guys, I don't want to know this.
Right. Yeah. So like when you're a kid and you, like my first guitar teacher was teaching me Camptown Racetrack when I wanted to be learning how to play Smoke on the Water. Is that kind of thing?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it pretty much was that kind of thing. And, you know, and I was in a band, I would say from 11 or 12. And this
was your first band? Your first band?
Yeah, pre-Beatles. We were called the Continentals.
Okay.
And it was our friend Jan and the guy who wound up being the bass player in Rat Race, Dave, but he was playing accordion. So Jan played trumpet. I had a snare drum and a hi-hat, no kick drum yet. And that was our band. We had the Continental theme, which was an original, and we played the Saints Go Marching In. And I don't remember what else we played, but that was our first band. And then the Beatles happened, and, you know, that was just...
That changed everything.
Changed everything. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So now we're talking, I guess that's around 1964-ish, 62? Yeah, 64-ish. So the Beatles hit soon after the Rolling Stones. Where were you when this was going on, and what was your first real band? What was, how old were you? Were you playing? I'm sure you had to be playing all the junior high parties or the high school parties. I mean, where'd we go then?
Well, we went to, I mean, Dave and I stayed together. You know, we went from the Continentals, you know, I mean, we'd play in the basement of the apartment building and we'd do whatever we did for the kids. But finally, when the Beatles came out, we decided to call ourselves the Bugs.
Okay.
Because the whole English thing was happening.
Yep.
And that didn't work out so well. So then we were the Tottenhams.
And still
then
with the accordion?
And no. He had gotten a bass by this time. And then we were the Roaches, which, you know, and finally in '68 we formed Rat Race Choir, and we played our first gig in the July of that year at the YWCA. And yeah, but yeah, we were playing, you know, parties and brass.
So how old were you when you guys started Rat Race? Were you still in high school? Or just...
Oh yeah, I think I might have been in junior high school.
In junior high school, okay.
15.
15.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now the original Rat Race Choir. So Dave's playing bass. Is it? Who else is playing in the band at that time?
We had a keyboard player named Pepe Ficaretta, and the guitar player was Chris Murphy, and we had a lead singer who is still one of my absolute best friends to this day, Chris Peck. So we were a 5-piece. And then, and it's funny because we used to go and play at the Westchester County Jail for the prisoners, and they loved it. And I mean, it was insane. I mean, you want to get bitten by the bug, go play for some criminals.
How did you do that?
You and Johnny Cash.
Right. Yeah. I think Johnny might have done it first, but yeah, we played at the Westchester County Pen, and this is how full circle stuff is. were there, right? And I guess it wasn't it wasn't like high crime. It was all pot dealers and unpaid tickets or whatever. And who comes up to us but Jan, the trumpet player from the Continentals?
He was in
Oh
jail.
wow, he was.
He was doing a bid for dealing weed or something. And we
Oh
said,
God.
and when you get out, you can be our light man. And he was for years. And that's so that happened. And then and we were playing, Light My Fire, all the tunes of the day. And we were playing a lot of Motown stuff because we
was
were
popular.
Rascals stuff we played because we had the B3. Pepe had a B3, and then
He was actually taking the B3 to shows.
Oh yeah. But the reason the reason he had to be replaced is because we had to sneak the B3 out of his house. Because his father, who was an immigrant Italian father, we said, "Oh, you got to get a Hammond. You got to get a Hammond," and he got the Hammond. But then when we wanted to take it out of the house, it was, "No, the Hammond cannot leave the house." What do you mean? No, what? So we played a couple of gigs, and we realized that the Hammond could not leave the house. And that's when we met Larry McGowan, who was the keyboard player, the one that you saw at the reunion, and Larry joined the band and replaced Pepe. And, his mother didn't care whether he took his B3 out. So it was cool.
But boy, I remember the days when people used to carry those things around with the Leslies. And, oh man, that was more work than doing the gig.
Yeah, it really was. And Larry had the thing with the strap, the cover that went over the B3. And then those two, they looked like, for lack of a better word, they looked like hand carts, two hand carts that went under each side, and you strapped it together, and it had wheels and it had the handles. But it still weighed 425 pounds. And, so I was conveniently not around when we got to that part of the truck.
So, all right. So you guys are still kids. How did you get the name Rat Race Choir, by the way?
Well, the original guitar player, Chris Murphy, it's a lyric from a Dylan song from It's All Right, Mom, Only Bleeding. And, that's where it came. I guess Chris was a Dylan fan. He was older than us too by a couple of years, older.
Okay.
Everybody by a couple of years. And he said, we should call ourselves Rat Race, because the line is, he who sings with his tongue on fire gargles in the Rat Race Choir. And so, okay, it was a cool name. It stuck.
Yeah.
And, then we started playing gigs. And I remember it had to be, Hendrix was already out, because I remember getting one of my brother's white shirts and drawing eyeballs on it because I wanted to have wardrobe, and we played at the YWCA on North Street it was some kind of military thing, because they had buses brought in the cadets and buses brought in the girls. Girls were on one side, the cadets were on the other side. It was as weird as it could be. And then somehow we started getting gigs. And I was underage. We were playing the fore and aft in White Plains, and we played this place called the Trade Winds in Newburgh. And there were like 5 stages in this room, right? And
wow.
And the other 4 stages were for the strippers.
That they did not know about.
That we didn't know.
Really? And back in those days?
100%. And I'm playing like this. And, are we sharing a dressing room? Well, no. That's got to be fun for a bunch of young lads. Oh man, let me tell you about fun. And then someone gives you money. This is amazing. So after that, and we would play wherever we could. We would play at any of the CYO dances or any of the high school things. And we played this. We had there was this thing called the Showmobile in White Plains, and it was basically a truck that had a stage built into it, and they would drive around and they'd put on concerts or do whatever. And we were playing at it I guess it would have been in.
So it was like a truck, like they have like some of the they drive it in, they set it up, it opens up to a stage.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so we were playing, it was 1970 or 71. And we were playing at this place called Turner Park, which was just a park in Silver Lake. And a guy came down from the apartment building that was behind the stage. So he wasn't, we weren't playing at his building. And he said, listen, I'm a bartender in the Hamptons during the summer, and I think you guys would be great out there. And that's really how it started. So we went out to
it was on Lake Street.
And now how old are you guys in 71? Like what, you high school?
Yes, yeah, high school.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember we started playing on the weekends, and we started playing early after Memorial Day. So you're out in the Hamptons on Montauk Highway. It was actually Watermill, which is
Hot Dog Beach.
Hot Dog Beach. We played Hot Dog Beach, but this place was called Middy's General Store. And what it was an old mansion from the rum running days, because all the canals ran in, so they used to bring the booze in there, and it was a speakeasy. So what they did was they converted the downstairs to a nightclub and kept the rooms upstairs. So the band lived upstairs, the bartenders lived there, and we would play Friday, Saturday, and Sunday before the season started. And I remember hustling to get home because I would have to go to school the next day.
Yeah, I remember some of the when I was younger, not in those days. I was probably late 80s, early 90s, but I was playing out in Greenport and East Hampton. And I remember those 4 o'clock in the morning drive homes when you're but yeah, for sure. So let's go back a little bit still here. So when you started playing drums, obviously Ringo. Who else was influencing you?
Well, it's my first real influence, even before Ringo, because I was playing before I knew of Ringo, was Gene Krupa, because my mother had this record called The Essential Gene Krupa. It was a red album cover with a black kind of silhouette picture. And I believe on it was like this drum battle between him and Buddy Rich.
Oh, wow.
And Buddy is amazing. You can't take anything away from him, but he was so technical and so just articulate. I just gravitated to Gene, because Gene was that whole jungle boogie kind of thing, a lot of tom-toms. And so he was my first influence. And then my next influence was Dino Danelli from the Young Rascals.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, you can see, I put up the genuine guest background so that I'm not in my spaceship. And you notice that my crash cymbals are all flat, even the little splash cymbals. They're not tilted like the pangs, but they're all flat. And that's because Dino played with his flat. And I've done it. And
it just kind of went with it because that was your
concert.
Yeah, that was my first concert. And he was playing Sparkling Champagne Ludwig's. So I was conflicted, because if you're a Krupa guy, you're a Slingerland guy. So my first set that I actually owned, that I bought, but my mother would buy me whatever I got. But my first real kit was a Sparkling Champagne Slingerland, kit.
Not a bad kit.
No.
My question was he a double bass player or no?
Who, Gene?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did it, but I got onto double bass from Ginger Baker.
Yeah, I was going to say Ginger Baker.
And it's funny because I met Ginger. Ginger came to one of our gigs later in life. We had a conversation about it. But I'll tell you I was playing with John Entwistle because they knew each other. And so Ginger came to our gig. But how the double bass thing happened is there was a kid down the street from me named Mike Rago, and he had the exact same set that I had: Sparkling Champagne, Slingerlands. He had the 12-inch tom-tom. I had the 13. He had the 14-inch floor tom. I had the 16-inch floor tom. And he said, do you want to buy my set? And I said, I certainly do. And that's how, 2 bass drums, 2 rack toms, 2 floor toms, and I was off.
So once that happened, I mean, that's been your style. You've always played double bass and the big kits. And I mean, that's rock and roll from our era, the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It's, you especially when you're playing, I guess, a lot of progressive and a lot of hard rock type stuff. It's the big kit.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I mean, I built my kit or built up my kit based on the music that we were doing. If I needed bongos, then there were bongos. If I needed triangles, then there were triangles. And so it wasn't, and I remember going to a Buddy Rich clinic once, watching Buddy play live. And everybody walked up at the end, and I showed him a picture of my kit, and it's all these tom-toms and all this stuff. And he says, "Do you play all these?" And I said, "They wouldn't be there, cocky kid. They wouldn't be there if I didn't play them, man." So.
Yeah, you're lucky he didn't yell at you. All right, so let's go to 1978. And the reason I say that, 78, 79, let me just get rid of this uninstall Adobe Flash because I don't want to deal with it now. 1978, 1979, I was a kid on Long Island, 15-ish, and I was really, I'm playing guitar about 6-7 years at that point. I'm really into music. I sneak out to see the bands. The drinking age was 18, so at 16, sometimes I could squeeze in the door and see all my favorite bands. I lived a block, and not a block, but I lived half a mile away from Speaks.
Oh, Island Park.
Yeah, well, I live in Long Beach, so I was half a mile from Speaks, and you open up the music paper, The Good Times, and every other page, Rat Race Choir, Rat Race Choir, Rat Race Choir, Rat Race Choir, Rat Race Choir. And Mark Hitt now is in the band, right?
Right. Mark joined in 74. And this is interesting too. Larry was the first one out of the original 5 guys. Larry was the first one to come into the band. He replaced the keyboard player. Next was a guy called Bob Catapano, and he came in 71 because he was with us at the Hamptons. So he replaced Chris Murphy
on guitar.
And then Bob and Dave wanted to split the vocal duties. So they said that we no longer needed the singer. So so Chris was given his walking papers, and we became a 4-piece. And then after Bob Catapano left, Bob Mayo joined the band as a guitar player.
Okay.
The keyboard player from Frampton, right? And he was already playing with Frampton. That was 73.
Wow.
He was in the band for a year. And then Frampton said, "Come on, we're going to start touring." And as you know, that was a good move for Bob.
Yeah.
And that's when we got Mark Hitt, 74. And
how'd you guys meet? How'd you meet Mark? Where did he come from?
He was playing in another band called Gates Pass. And they were a popular band, and it just all, right place, right time. And he was playing that ES 355, which no one,
I remember that.
Everybody else was playing Les Pauls or Strats, and here he is with a hollow body Gibson, but he made things scream. And,
well, he was also, he also was a sizable guy, and I don't think you really even realized how big the guitar is because, in fact, I know that Ed Roman built him a guitar called a Quicksilver, but he built it a little bit bigger for Mark, just so he had that size thing.
That was a great guitar. Mark, I remember when Ed built that for Mark, he put, Mark knows more about the way a guitar is supposed to feel than most guys will ever get. And, he was able to really get that guitar exactly the way he wanted it, but it never was quite what the 355 was to him. And I remember, that's just was his weapon of choice as long as I knew.
I'll say this about Mark. I absolutely one of my favorite guitar players. Love the vocabulary, the stuff he comes up with is beautiful. He can play. He can really play. He knows his instrument. As a guy who's done his sound quite a few times, turn down a little, buddy, please. I want to be able to put you through the PA.
That was always the I guess call it a downside or whatever. And our answer to that was, well, let's just play bigger places. But
Yeah. That
you know,
I did a gig with him one time at Jones Beach outside with the Hindenburg guys.
huh?
He was playing with them. This is outdoors. There's no bouncing. I still couldn't really put him through the PA.
Oh, I know.
And I kept asking him. No, but listen, I love him. I love him, and he's freaking amazing. And what I was gonna say to you is, the Rat Race Choir I know was that 1978 to like whatever 80 whatever it was.
It's actually Larry left in '79, but so it was '80. We got Gordon Cohen was the keyboard player for a while, and then Jack came in. But the band that you knew and the band that I call the classic lineup was that four-piece band with Mark, Larry, the one that did the reunion, Dave and myself.
Right, right.
It was, there will never be another band like that for me. I mean, I've played in some of the best situations you could ever want to play in, but growing up with guys and learning your music as they're learning theirs, there's a chemistry that happens that
Right.
Just
The stuff you guys play, some of the songs you guys pull out, I've never ever seen a band do. A, B, like you said, there's a chemistry. There's a chemistry that you guys had that was second to none. It would be like Zebra without Guy Gelso. It would be it's Led Zeppelin without John Bonham. You can't have those. That I understand. Everyone's upset that Robert Plant doesn't want to do Led Zeppelin, but I get it. That's why Rush will never play again. There's a chemistry and a certain integrity and quality to the music, and that's what you guys had. It was magical. It was an incredible band, and you guys should be proud of that.
I believe you. I'm very proud. I mean, there's always the little scrapes and bumps along the way when things start to change. And there was a number of things. It wasn't just like, it wasn't one thing that changed. I mean, the drinking age changed. The management for us wasn't right. It should have happened for us in the 70s, in 76, 77. That's when we should have crossed over, and we would have had some longevity, or who knows what we would have had. But, that was my mindset. And there's a trap, when you're too good at doing something and you're making a lot of money for yourself and other people doing it, nobody wants you to stop doing it. And, and that was, in the Speaks days, I was the one who, I wanted original material, and we had a house in the Hamptons, and we used to go out there all winter and write and write and write and write. And, it just didn't go that way.
And I understand, and I also know there was some mental discrepancies within the guys, and whatever. Let's get to the the towards the end of Rat Race Choir. We don't have to talk about what happened and and all that stuff, but so Rat Race Choir for you comes to an end, and it was probably a bit of a dark time, but then you get to work with the amazing John Entwistle, right? Was it right after that?
And there's a crossover. How it happened was we lost Larry in '87. Excuse me, in '79.
Okay.
And we were playing three-piece, which was amazing. We're going out as a power trio. I'm playing Cream and The Who and just all the power trio stuff, and Hendrix. It was great time. But then the drinking age changed and the club scene changed. And for us, we were sort of, like a dinosaur in the early to mid 80s.
Wow.
And by 85, we were playing just the wrong places, playing little places. I mean, we were playing, but it wasn't going in the direction that it should have been going in, or it could have been going in. And so I started a band in with another amazing guitar player called Lou Ubriaco, and the band was called Mighty Joe Young. And we, we played and we tried it. It was a power trio again, but the gigs just weren't there. And then in '87, Jack was our keyboard player, Jack Hotop, but Jack was working for Korg, so that we couldn't play because Jack had to go to work the next day. So we were kind of a trio, and then we were kind of a four-piece. And so it wasn't like, hey, you stole my girlfriend, you're out of the band. It wasn't that. It was just all points of light coming to bear. And in '87, we decided to go out to our first NAMM show, the whole band, because Jack was going to be there working with Korg. So Mark, Dave, and I said, let's go and see what happens. And that's where we met John. And, that was, me being the shy, retiring guy that I am, I said to him, you want to jam? And he said, anytime. And that to me was a license to steal. And I was on the NAMM floor telling anybody that would listen, I'm playing with John Entwistle. And we wound up playing at the Seymour Duncan NAMM Jam at the Celebrity Theater, the Vic Theater.
Okay.
Chicago, because it was at McCormick Place then before it moved to Nashville. And John and I remember, it's a long story, but I won't go into chapter and verse, but on the way, I picked him up, I go to Kramer, and I said, guys, I'm playing with John Entwistle and we'd like to jam. We understand that you guys and Seymour Duncan have the big jam. They said, John Entwistle? Oh, yeah, no problem. Tell where are you staying? What are you doing there? And all of a sudden I'm getting waltzed around like a king. And I'm staying at like the Cracker Barrel Motel, and they send a limousine for me. And a limousine's bigger than the freaking front of the motel. And so I'm calling everybody, guys, meet me here, meet me there. We're going to play with John Entwistle tonight, meet me. Blah, blah. And so I pick up John and Andy, his roadie, and he gets into this limousine. It's like, where are we going? And I said, I'm going to go play. He said, what are we going to play? I said, we'll play some Who songs. He said, I don't know any. I said, well, the guys will teach them to you when you get, when we get there. Yeah, he hadn't played, it was 81. He hadn't played with the Who, or 82, whatever it was. And so we get to the Vic Theater, and we're in a blacked out limo, and he's not looking, so he doesn't see where we even are. And we get hustled down the back stairs to a dressing room, a row of dressing rooms, and it says John Entwistle on the door. And it's like, he's like, what the f is this? And so the guys come in, and we're teaching them, we're going over the Live at Leeds stuff, which is what we did. And he said, you guys even learned the mistakes. So, and we went out and we played Summertime Blues, Won't Get Fooled Again, the whole See Me, Feel Me thing, Pinball Wizard, 4 songs. And because, I was just, our bass player just didn't play bass. So John played bass. Oh, we did, Summertime Blues, because John did, how you got to help your son, but you're too young to vote. And it's actually, I have it on film. Somebody videoed the first notes that I ever played with the guy.
Wow.
And because we locked as a rhythm section, he was like, when he walked out onto that stage and saw however many thousands of people were in a theater, an old vaudeville theater, and there were, the whole back of the stage was television screens, and there was gear all over the place. Leslie West had just played. Dweezil Zappa introduced us. We walked on that stage. He was like, what the hell did I get myself into here? But then we played, nobody, you can play bass. And we just did what we did. And we locked. And so the rest of that night up in the green room, all we did was tell jokes back and forth. And that was just it. It was jokes for like 2 hours. And he gave me his number and said, call me. I said, I absolutely will. And then I get a call from the girl that actually set the Kramer Jam up. Her name was Karen Iamello, sweet girl, and very good at what she did, PR. And she said, would John Entwistle be interested in playing the K Rock and Roll Up Your Sleeve blood drive? And I said, of course. Hell yeah.
Bottom
So
line.
at the bottom line, and
Yeah.
they're going to broadcast it live and blah blah
Howard
blah blah.
Stern,
We had to do the Howard Stern show. So I said, yeah, I was like, yeah, of course he will. And John, do you want to play at the? Yeah, and he said, okay, yeah. And it was in November, and so I said, well, listen, since you're coming in anyway, and they're paying for your flight, and they're getting us all this stuff, why don't we do another lots of gigs? And that's really how it started. We went out. And at the bottom line, Rat Race Choir was the opener. Mark left the stage. Leslie West came out, and we played the mountain stuff.
Yeah.
Then Mark came back. Leslie left. John played bass. Dave sang, and we did the Who stuff.
Wow.
So we took it on the road for a month, and the following year, John said to me, we stayed friends, and we would just call each other up, and we were friends. It wasn't like, oh man, you're the guy in the Who.
Right.
I mean, there certainly were moments of that, but
Right.
I mean,
You're right. I get that. I understand that.
and he asked me to join his band in '88, which I did. It was probably one of the most miserable tours I ever did because they were not, it wasn't my guys, but John and I stayed together. We played again in 90, 91. And then he rang me up and said, let's put a proper band together, which we did. And that was the John Entwistle band.
And so the John Entwistle band, the real John Entwistle band you're talking about was like early 90s.
Mid 90s.
Mid 90s.
Yeah,
95. And really, if it wasn't for fate and that time that you guys met at NAMM, it never would have happened.
Never would have happened. It was such, okay. I mean, you want to talk about weird things. If you go back and you look at the dates of that NAMM, it was June.
Yeah.
27th.
Yeah.
He died on June 27th.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many of those things.
At the same time.
Yeah. At the same time. We met him at 2:00 in the afternoon in Chicago, and he died, or they found him at noon in Vegas.
Yeah.
So it's
15 years later.
And
so my question to you is, when John passed away, were you guys were still actively in a band?
Yeah, we had just finished a year-long tour, the tour that
Ann Wilson.
with Ann Wilson, and we were touring between the Abbey Road gigs as the Entwistle band. It was a 2001 A Bass Odyssey was the name of that tour.
Yeah.
So we did that, and we did the Walk Down Abbey Road with Todd and Alan Parsons and Ann, and
It's incredible.
And and we ended the tour in Japan, and it was the last time we were in the same room together. I didn't know it was going to be, but
Right.
but we stayed. I mean,
And the weird thing is that he told you that he loved you.
yeah, the day
He
day
never had said that before.
he wasn't. John was not warm and cuddly that way, but
Right.
he said to me, the last thing he ever said to me was, "Love you, mate."
Yeah.
And I said, "I love you too, mate. I'll talk to you tomorrow." And
Yeah. Tomorrow never came. So John passes away. It's got to be probably one of the lowest times in your life. Where do you go from there?
Where did I go from there?
Your fake heart attack.
Oh, right. Well, yeah.
Pilgrim State Psychiatric. I mean, where'd you go, man?
Close. It wasn't. Well, actually, where I went was actually to a very satisfying and good place musically, because I knew that the Who was meant to tour in 2002. And John and I were partners. I wasn't his drummer. We had a business together, and we started a business which we still run which Lori and I still run to this day. And so I was going to do things out on the road with him and this and that. And as a result of knowing that we weren't going to tour, I had reconnected with Mark Hitt, who I hadn't, really been connected to for years.
Wow.
And I said, man, I had a demo studio in my house in the mountains, and I said, let's write some stuff. And we did. We wrote, in my opinion, the album that Rat Race should have done 20 years before that. And I mean, and it's still some of my proudest writing and performances are on that record. And we released it 2003. We started writing when John was still alive. And in fact, we wrote a song, Mark and I wrote a song with Entwistle on the phone.
Wow.
I called, John was in LA, and I had taken a piece of one of his bass solos, and it was at the beginning of digital audio, and I made it into a bass part. Mark wrote chords over it, and I sent it to John, and or I called him up. I played it for him. He said, "Oh, do this, do that," and it actually made it on I think on both of on our live album and our studio album.
Is that available on Spotify? Can people get that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's it called?
Endless Vacation.
Say it again.
Endless Vacation. It's the
Okay.
John Entwistle band. And John, when we went to record the studio album in 90, whatever it was, he came into because he had an incredible studio with the double doors and all the stuff and the two MCI 24 tracks strapped, and let's do it.
Right.
And we're there for the first day of, we were going to routine for a couple of days. We were there for the first day of routining, and he comes in with this book, and he says, "Have you ever seen this book about the Who?" And it's called Endless Vacation, and it's all about the vacation spots. And so it was after that we wrote the song. But that was just John.
The documentary.
That's so awesome. I know years later on, you and Mark did some work with Robin Zander, with the Robin Zander band.
Yeah. Well, Mark and I formed the solo thing that we did. We called Torque, and we had great musicians. I'm sure you know Chris Clark, who plays with Wondrous Stories.
Of course.
Absolutely. If you got to have a keyboard player, Chris is
amazing. He doesn't play with Wondrous anymore, by the way.
No, I know he's with Brand X. I just actually spoke to him the other day because I was in a situation where I might need a sub for something, and he'd be my first call guy every time.
Yeah.
And Jeff Gans was the bass player. Jeff is amazing. And so we had just a great band. And when John passed, I said, well, this is it. We had already started recording the record, and we had writing the demos and that whole thing. So I kind of slid into that. So for till about 2003, 2004, that was the band. Then Laurie's mom was sick, and we had to go. We went down, and instead of putting her into hospice, we moved into the house with her in Slidell, and we were there for 8 months so that she could.
I get it.
And that kind of put the squash on Torque, and then I guess it was the following year we moved to Florida.
Okay.
But an interesting thing, just how many weird things there are. When one of the things that John and I were doing in 2000 is I got a call from Justin Kreutzmann, son of Bill Kreutzmann, one of the drummers for the Grateful Dead. Justin's a filmmaker. He said, I'd love to do a film, I'd love to do something with the John Entwistle band. And I said, we don't really have anything, we're not releasing anything, so there's really nothing to do. And I called John up, and I got this idea. I said, you know what? You're going to go out with the Who. And I'm thinking this had to be 98, 97, 98. Was between, we weren't going to tour that year because he was going to go out with the, and I said, why don't we do a documentary about, the old soldier getting out his gun, getting out his uniform, and go through the process, make a documentary about what it's like to go back out and prep to do this thing. Because I knew what it was like. I knew what Technical Day was. I knew what Wardrobe Day was, so I thought it would make an interesting documentary. So Justin and I got these backers. It had to be 99 because we had played Woodstock 99, and it was after that. And so we got these backers, and they came up with all this money, and they sent us to England, and we shot 10 hours of just John and I bullshitting, telling stories.
Wow.
We talked about this, we talked about that. And I actually went to Burbank edit the documentary. John said, "Oh, we can sell it on the tour. If you finish it in time." The guy said we can sell it on the tour, so you and I, Steve and John, can make some money. We can make some extra money. I said, great. And he said, I even have a name. And I said, what? You have a name? And he said, yeah, call it an ox's tail, Tale. And so after he passed, some people tried to do some sneaky stuff, and it came back to me, and I said, I'll finish it posthumously. We'll do it as the John Entwistle story, and Pete's in it, and Chris Squire's in it, and Billy Squire's in it. I had all the Squires.
Wow.
Roger Glover was in it.
Wow.
Ray Manzarek from the Doors, and Jim Ladd, the DJ. So I finished it, later on, I guess, in that year, and then I'm in Florida. And I meet, and we have a hurricane. I'm here for 13 days, and a freaking hurricane shows up. Coming after me with a knife, I don't have a problem. I'm from New York. Weather, I don't do weather. I'm hearing flood surge, tidal surge, and all these, what the fuck? And so I'm all freaked out. So when the hurricane came and nothing happened to our house, I said, that's it. Let's do because I heard all these disasters. Let's do a hurricane relief party, because we have an arena down here, Germain Arena, and I had been DJ being a guest DJ on a radio show, trying to keep my toe in the water, and I called Eddie Money, who was a friend, and I called Buck Dharma from BOC, Blue Oyster Cult, who was a friend, and
Eddie was a great guy, wasn't he?
Great guy. I loved him, man.
He was a genuine person.
Yeah, just an amazing guy. Anyway, so the guy who owned the station said, why don't you call Cliff Williams? And I said, who's Cliff Williams? He said, he's the bass player in AC/DC. And I said, oh, okay. And he gave me his cell phone, right? So I called up. I said, hey, Cliff, this is Steve from the John Entwistle Band. Oh, hi, mate. And they wound up, he said, Brian just lived at the street in Sarasota. And so they came and they played the concert. Well, Cliff and but not with us, not with my core band.
Okay.
And so Cliff and I got friendly. I mean, what's what you do with, when you're in Florida and you find another guy who's in your end of the business, boy.
It's 8 o'clock. Fader's gonna go.
I know you got to go.
No. It's okay. It's okay. Finish the story.
So I said, Cliff, anytime you want to jam, my guitar player lives in New York. He's got a rig at my house and a room in my house. I could have him come down anytime. He said, well, my singer lives just up in Sarasota. And so Mark and I started writing AC/DC-esque songs. And Cliff loved them. He played bass he's I hope I don't say this the wrong way. He's a far better bass player than you could ever understand from, the basic stuff that he plays in AC/DC. He's a monster.
Well, he's very solid, though. You could tell with the way he plays.
Yeah, but also can be very melodic.
Gotcha.
So he said, well, what do you want to do with this stuff? I said, well, I don't know. Is there a recording studio? And he said, well, we'll need some lyrics. I'll call Brian. And Brian came down. Brian and I wrote all the lyrics for 7 songs. And they said, well, let's go and tour. So we did about 20 dates. From Chicago to New York. We played the Chance, 2 nights at the Chance, and I think we played BB King's, and AC/DC's manager, Alvin Handwerker, and Steve Barnett, the president of Sony, came to see us at BB King's.
Wow.
And Steve Barnett says to Cliff, this is a great band. What are you doing with this? And he said, I don't know. What should I do with it? And he said, well, you do owe us a record.
Huh.
And so Cliff said, well, okay, all right. And then Alvin Handwerker hears this going on. The next thing I know, they're going to Vancouver to record Black Ice.
With no songs.
With no songs written. Just get them away from these 2 guys.
Yeah.
And that's why he toured that tour.
Yeah.
They hadn't toured
sucks.
for years. So
listen, first of all, we need to do, I think, a part 2 of this interview, because there's a lot more. But I mean, it's pretty. Let me tell you, buddy, you've got quite a quite a resume, and it's very impressive. But I always knew that about you. I've learned a lot today. I want to ask you, best rock drummer of all time.
Well, if I went from the Entwistle school, I would say me. But
That's what John would.
I can't disagree, but go ahead.
Favorite rock drummer of all time would have to be Barrymore Barlow, the guy who replaced Clive Bunker in Jethro Tull. And the reason for that,
Wow.
and well, there's a real weird catch to that too. Barrymore played two bass drums, was a very melodic, creative player, and playing inside of Tull on Thick as a Brick and all of that stuff. He ticked all the boxes for me. Love Cobham, love Bonham, love Mitch Mitchell, love Ringo, but the most complete guy was Barrymore.
Wow.
And we can end it here because John, and this, I didn't even believe this. I'm in England in '88 to join John's band. And he said to me, "Who's your favorite drummer?" And I said, "Barrymore Barlow." And he goes, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, you just replaced him."
Wow.
He was in the band
Wow.
before me.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. If you could play with anybody, dead or alive, who it would be?
Hendrix, no question. Hendrix and Entwistle. You know, that to me would just be, oh God, that would be it. That would be, but I asked somebody that question, and the truth of the matter, if I could really play with anybody, dead or alive, it would have been Rat Race 1978.
Okay. I understand too. Okay, and one more. Let's say, what are your feelings on a guy like Neil Peart? Peart.
I want to like Neil Peart, whatever.
Peart.
But when I realized that he plays things the same every night, I mean, he's a brilliant executioner of drumming, brilliant, and you can't take that away from him. But why he's not a favorite of mine is because there's no risk. And the thing that I loved about Rat Race, that I loved about the Entwistle band, even the Robin Zander band, or the guys in AC/DC, is it was never the same twice. I never did the same solo twice in my life. I mean, I would do same parts. It was all about pushing the envelope and taking the risk. And that's why John and I got on so well, because that's what he was all about, taking the risk.
Okay, so one more guy I want to ask you about.
Okay.
Alex Van Halen.
Alex Van Halen, incredibly inventive and powerful. In fact, Mighty Joe Young, the band that I put together in '85, played a lot of Van Halen because the guitar player could really play it. Mm-hmm. And so I gained an appreciation for Alex when I had to learn his parts. So, you know, he's a strong player, and
a lot more difficult to play than people realize by listening to it.
Right, because he's very transparent. You know, you don't hear, and like I said, I didn't really get on to him until I learned his stuff and said, wow, you know, because Eddie's up there, you're listening to that. You know what I mean? You're not getting the and two bass drums. I mean, what's not to like? And the guy hit like a freight train. So, you know, very talented and very gifted guy. And I hope he finds some place to play now that, you know, because he's great.
All right, penne alla vodka or chicken parm?
It depends where we go. Probably chicken parm. I love the penne alla vodka, but chicken parm is probably my first call.
Flame broiling or frying?
Flame.
Okay. All right. That sums up our interview for today. I think you did it. I think you did an amazing job. We learned a lot about you, and we appreciate you doing this show every freaking day, Monday through Friday. We need to do a part 2 of this interview, so whenever you want to do it, you let me know.
Well, the people are agreeing, and Fader, they are saying you are doing a great job.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I used to do a prank call radio show, so this is I kind of understand this stuff a little.
Hey, listen, you know what? I have some of the best friends that I've never met in person, because of this show. And I would, I hang with you anytime, bro, anytime. So we'll do part two.
We will. And by the way, you don't remember me maybe, but you and I sat in that little stupid room up in Mulcahy's, like smacking each other around a little bit that time.
I remember that. No, I do. But now I know who you are. Now I love you. Now you're a brother. We've got music.
Yes,
Got-
yes,
So
absolutely. All
that's
right,
all
all
future.
right, my bro. God willing, things will get better. We'll get to see each other soon. Okay.
So,
But
bro.
great show, great interview, and thank you for doing this.
Hey man, thank you for doing it with me. I really appreciate you, bro. Say hello to Kim and
I will. Good
be
night,
safe.
Lori.
Bye, Fader. Thank you.
Take care,
All
bro.
right, everybody. I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye bye.
How great was Fader?
Yeah, Fader. I got to go back to my. I got to go back to
So
my.
professional.
Yeah, well, he's man. I tell you what, Fader. He's such an incredible. He's so talented as a. There we go. Now talented as a guitar player as well, but an amazing sound man. I mean, he's one of those guys that just has all the gifts.
Well, okay, Jeff Seitz is watching from California.
Oh, we're in
And he
California.
wants to know if Fader's the audio restoration person. Does he do that too?
Yeah,
I know he makes some kind of little 3D
he
box
makes.
thing.
I mean, the stuff.
He's
Jeff.
like a genius, man.
Yeah, he's in the genius
He's in the
pool.
genius.
He creates
club.
these reampers and he's got a whole line of products. He has 3D printers and he prints his own cases for things. It's amazing. He's so talented. And I call him, he has given me some of the greatest studio advice on things that I've ever gotten. He's
Yeah, miking your drums.
yeah, I mean, we did a FaceTime call and he was I sent him pictures of how the drums were mic'd and what I was using. And he's a brilliant, very talented guy, musician as well as a tech guy. So, there you go.
Yeah. So well done, Fader.
Yeah, well done, Fader, man. Thank you, bro. That was fun for me. That was fun.
And he was prepared. He had those questions prepared.
Yeah, no, he's listen, the one thing I know about Fader is if he's going to do something, he's coming with a loaded gun and probably more than one.
Well, Silvio Anelli says that Fader is an ass-kicking guitar player and a great family man.
Yeah, I agreed. I mean, yeah, I've heard him play. I've heard his songs. I'm looking forward to playing with him at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a very talented guy. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. I really did myself.
I
So,
enjoyed
yeah.
it.
You enjoyed it
Yes, I enjoyed it.
because it wasn't you.
Yes, I was happy.
Because you didn't have to be the 200 guests
Okay, tomorrow night
tomorrow night.
we have Billy Monroe, the
Oh,
singer
from
from
Monroe.
Monroe.
Mhm. And I remember Monroe from the island days, from that time. I remember that band. I remember seeing them, not seeing them in person because we were working, but I
Saw them
remember.
in good times, like Fader saw records.
Right, exactly. Yeah, just saw them advertised, or they'd be on the bill, or they'd be here tomorrow night. We were here tonight. It was, I've said it a million times. It was a great time to be in a band, to be that age, to be a part of that music scene. It was incredible, and it prepared me for everything that I've done since then, and everything that I'll ever do. Those were the halcyon years. So yeah, what can I say? I think I said it all. But I'd love to do part two with him. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Okay.
Okay, so guys, as as the saying goes, if I don't see you in the future, see you in the pasture.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.